Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I always got told as a kid, you just like to hear yourself talk. And now I get to hear a microphone. Scoot this over a little bit. So for those who don't know, my name is Reverend Kathy Scharmer. I am very, very happy to be here. As some of you know, we have a minister search process going on. So in the interim, I get to be the minister every first Sunday of every month. So it's very exciting for me. This month, the November theme is freedom from fear and freedom from error thinking. Doesn't that just kind of make you go, huh? The topic for today is the fruit of good and evil. Now, before I get into our actual topic, though, I wanted to introduce our 2019 pledge drive. You'll see in your bulletin and in the chair fronts these lovely little green cards. This is actually what we're asking everyone to just kind of look at your heart, look at your finances, and fill this out with what you believe you'll be able to contribute to CSLP in 2019. Just like public radio and public television, we operate exclusively from the donations of the people that gain a benefit from us. So I'd like to think that everyone in this room is somehow getting a benefit from us. So we'd just like to invite you to spend some time and be heartful about it. We have a belief in CSL that there's a principle of spiritual practice called circulation. So it's not about me giving money to someone who needs it. It's about me putting things into circulation that comes back to me. Our statement, as I give, I embody prosperity and abundance, knowing I'm fully supported. Symbol of my love and gratitude, does great work in the world and returns to me easily, effortlessly, and often. God doesn't need our money. God's got everything that God needs. What we need is to be able to open our mind and our consciousness to that ability that what I give comes back to me easily, effortlessly. The pledges also do help on the tactical element as well. We're in the process of doing our budgets for 2019. And we look at these pledge cards to say how much do people believe that they're going to give us? What programs now can we do? What services can we provide? How will we be able to use this money to support our community? So we'll be doing this pledge drive through the end of November. You'll hear about it from some of the other ministers that come up. But just wanted to bring this to your attention and ask you, to think about it. Just where are your finances and where is your own value system? And what comes up as a question pretty often, which I thought was kind of interesting, what if things change? Then you change your pledge. It's just that easy. We never know what's really going to happen a year from now. So if you have a wonderful, wonderful windfall, of course we would love to have you pledge more. If something happens and all of a sudden things are going the other direction, you can change your pledge. We're here as a supporting organization to find that spiritual truth inside each and every one of us. It's who we are. So the other thing I want to do before I actually get into my topic is ask you all to look at this new minister covenant that was on your seat. This was a process that everybody in the congregation was invited to last Thursday, a week ago Thursday, to come up with what do we want to see in our new minister. Then a smaller group got together on Friday and Saturday, and that's what we papered the walls with, of these things that our congregation has said they want. How will we then embody the consciousness to bring that person into our community as our new minister? And the result of all day Saturday and 3 hours into Friday night was a covenant. So I would like to ask all of you to stand up and read with me this covenant. God has promised wholeness fills my entire being, with the realization of love and perfection. Purpose. My new ministers the wholeness that I am. Vision. I see my new minister joyfully inspiring all to live as love. Universal intentions for my new minister are to inspire me to live as love in the expression of wholeness, to awaken the wisdom within me, to apply spiritual principles through the power of love. The community intentions for my new minister are to expand our wisdom and knowledge through mystical and religious studies, to extend the power of love through social activism, to create a world that works for everyone. And now quietly, personal intention number 6. What do you personally want to receive from the new minister? And number 7, quietly to yourself, what would you like to see the new minister contribute to this community? And together we anchor this prayer by saying, and so it is. Don't you want to meet this person? Yeah. And that's exactly what we're doing, is we are creating that consciousness that will bring them into our community. And if you noticed in that prayer, there was a strong emphasis on wholeness. We came up with that as the word. You look at all the attributes of the divine. What is it we want? And what we wanted was wholeness, because it encompassed everything. It is love, peace, beauty, joy, light, life. So wholeness, so just hold that as your own thought for a minister. So let's move into our topic, the fruit of good and evil. Now notice it's the fruit of good and evil, not good and evil. It's the result, right? So this is back to cause and effect. This is the belief structure that says, if I am living a pure, connected to spirit life, I am living a good life. If I choose differently, if I choose to stay in my human condition, then I may not have the fruits of good. I may have the fruits of evil. Now, evil is one of those words that, just even as I said that, I could feel the energy like, oh, go away, Kathy. I don't want to talk about the fruits of evil. There's a dictionary called the New Thought Dictionary. It takes some of these words like evil and defines them in metaphysical context. So evil is defined as a term used to imply the opposite of good. Evil is not a thing in and of itself, but it is the absence of what is felt to be good or pleasing. As darkness is absence of light, death is an absence of life, evil is an absence of good. The term is usually linked with the idea of negation or destruction, though these forces in themselves are not really bad. What appears to be destruction at times is only a vehicle for change. The term is entirely relative. What might seem evil to one man might be seen as good by another. Interesting, isn't it? So we're reframing this word. Like sin. In Catholicism especially, sin is the really, really terrible thing of going against God in some cases. Sin, as a definition, is an archery term, meaning missing the mark. Isn't that a lot easier to accept? I've missed the mark. I've just sinned. missing the mark simplifies that whole concept of sin. Now today's talk looks at original sin, Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden, Tree of Life. You notice we have our own Tree of Life. We have our artist with us today too. Barbara actually made that for us. Thank you so very much, Barbara. That's so beautiful. And the Tree of Life symbolizes who we really are, what we are all about, and was one of the main elements of the Garden of Eden. The Tree of Life was right in the center of the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve were cautioned by their father, by God, that said, don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's not just tree of knowledge. This is another thing that many people have had changes over the years, that it's the knowledge of good and evil. When we eat from the knowledge, from the tree of good and evil, we're self-aware. Is that necessarily a bad thing? Again, it's relative. When you're self-aware, it means the self is separate from the divine. Because in the Garden of Eden, everything was God. All the plants, all the people, all the fish, all the fowl, all the animals. This was all part of the divine. This is what God created in 7 days. And when he said, don't be self-aware, don't separate yourself from me. Keep that divine presence. And of course, Adam and Eve were a choice, right? So this is what we teach in CSL as well, is that we are always a choice. We get to decide, are we going to stay in that spiritual connection, or are we going to be working more focused on our human condition? No right or wrong, we're both. We are individualized expressions of spirit. So the tree of knowledge of good and evil is that moment when we recognize ourselves as individualized expressions of God. We know that good and evil are both choices that exist in our life. Ernest Holmes, the founder of CSL, has written in the book Creative Mind and Success, if God had created us in such a way as to compel us to do or be anything that was not of our choosing, we should not have been individuals at all. We would only be automatons. Interesting, isn't it? So we experience ourselves when we make a choice. And the only way that we can be the divine expression of spirit is when we are free to choose so. If we're not choosing it, we are not the divine expression of spirit. We're a machine, made to look like something that is not real. The nakedness that comes in the story is when there is that awareness of self. That when I'm all encompassing in one divine thought, I am divine. And there is no other. But when I am aware of the other, then it's like, well, I'm not like them. I'm ashamed. I'm hiding my nakedness. This is where it gets very, very complex in the whole metaphysics, of what the divine message really is. Because there is that part of each and every one of us that is always divine. And there is a part of us that is the human condition. Because we are the hands and feet, the hands and mouth of the divine. Which means we can choose to live in the world that is of spirit. And we eat, we drink, we sleep, we go shopping, we do all the things in the human condition. How do those things reconcile to that divine world? And that's where the good and the evil. Evil being absence of good. When choices are made that take us in a direction, that it is not the direction of the divine, because we can choose. Each and every one of us makes that choice every single day. Science of Mind teaches a fundamental power that we have is the power of choice. When we choose, we set the law in motion. And we talk about law. It's the seed that goes in as a thought, goes into soil, which is also known as law, and becomes a bloom, becomes manifest in form. So the thought moves into law to create the reality that we live with. When we are doing that, when we're working with law, we are co-creating with the divine. The process that we did, you see on the wall, of co-creation, the new minister. We were not recreating from our past experience. We didn't say we want a minister with purple hair, because that's what we had before. We opened our minds to be co-creating the minister with the divine. And that comes about when we choose. Without the power to choose and things to choose between, we are indeed those automatons that Holmes talks about. This is the whole purpose with the knowledge of good and evil, that it isn't a moral or ethical issue, but rather it's being able to choose to be one with God or to turn our backs on the spiritual reality and live by the human capabilities alone. I've done that. I've done that. When I get in my own way, is what I call it. When I think that I can solve something, when I'm so stuck in the way I want things to be, I don't even think to take that step back and to choose to be part of the divine connection. And every single time I do, things are better. There was one minister friend of me said, "Yeah, Kath, God works every time it's tried." It does. I had a situation a couple years back. Many of you know I used to work for a company in Sweden, and I was going to Sweden all the time. And it was very exciting, very major milestone in my life to be doing that. But when I stopped, I came back to my regular department thinking, kind of full of myself, to be very honest, that they're going to think I'm really great because now I've been to Sweden and I know all the things from home office. Not so. My manager was gone, the department had reorganized, there was different people that I didn't even know, even the work was different. So I was kind of at a loss. I was at risk of losing my job because the work they were doing, not what I did 2 years ago. And it wasn't my expertise or my specialty, and I'm in my mid-50s at that point. I don't want to go job hunting, I don't want to get laid off. So one of the things they offered me, I said, well, one of the things we're doing is that everybody now has to be certified. And I had the knowledge, but I didn't have the certification. I said, heck, you're not giving me any work to do, I might as well study. So I got all the books and I took the class and signed up to take the test, and there's like $500 cost for the test that the company was paying. So it was not an insignificant test, 4-hour test to get the certification. You could do sample tests 24 hours from your actual test date. So my test date came out, and that evening I did a sample test. I scored 40%.
Wow.
And I said, I'm not a 40% scoring kind of person. This just whoa, what's going on? So I immediately tried to reschedule. And they said, well, you can reschedule, but you're still going to have to pay the $500 now because you're less than 24 hours, and another $500 when your new time comes up. And I mean, granted, it's a company money, but still, it's a principle behind it. So I said, okay, the better choice, and this is so hard for me, I'm going to go take the test and fail. Because I can retest from a failed test for $100 versus $500 for the new one. Now, I'm not going to just chuck it all away. So I still studied. I was, again, like 12 hours before the test. I figured, okay, I'm going to sleep 6 of them. Maybe I can do another 4 or 5 hours of study. And I had this sample test, one sample test, because again, those cost as well. So I'm taking it, I'm getting one wrong, I'm looking it up, I'm getting the answer, I'm taking it again, I'm getting another one wrong. And I did that for 4 hours until the brain was mush. There was just nothing. And again, I'm trying, right? I'm in my human condition. I'm going to push myself through this. I can do this. I can force this through. Until I actually got to the point of taking the test. It's like, I've done everything that I possibly can. I know the sample test at this point is memorized, right? But nobody actually tests you on the sample test. They're all different questions. And if I did the first time with 40%, I just gave it to God. Whatever was going to happen was going to happen. I was the only person taking the test at that particular moment in time. So I had all this different security stuff, and I opened it. It was the sample test. Every single question I had memorized. Boom, 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 boom. Did anybody else have that experience? No. No, I was the only one taking the test. Was there some divine action? I think so. I think so. Good and evil? I chose good. I struggled. I absolutely struggled and was like, damn test. Stupid test. Stupid company. Why do I have to taste this? I went through all of those things of not good, of evil, until I let go. And when I let go, is when the world just opened up to me, because then I was connected to the divine. That's the lesson of the fruits of good and evil. Doesn't mean don't do anything, sitting on the top of the roof and hoping that, that God saves you from the flood. No, Holmes even would always talk, treat and move your feet. And that's where we get to be a choice. So Ernest Holmes also wrote a beautiful, beautiful 2-page essay about the Garden of Eden, the whole story of it. And he looked at different areas and what they mean in the metaphysical term. So the garden itself typifies life in its purest essence. This is a beautiful garden. There's no problems. There's no hassles. There's no weeds. There's no, danger. It's just a beautiful garden. That's pure essence. That's divine spirit. Adam actually means man in the generic term. And in the Hebrew book, which is kind of interesting, the Hebrew word for man and the Hebrew name Adam are the same. Interesting, isn't it? Another thing that, we always heard that Eve ate the apple. The Bible doesn't talk about apple. The Bible talks about fruit. But in Latin, here's a little bit of trivia for you. In Latin, the word for apple is malum, M-A-L-A-M. The word in Latin for evil is malum, M-A-L-U-M. Do you think somewhere along the line, evil and apple got interchanged? This is what's going on with a lot of the things that have been written in sacred texts that we went there 2,000 years ago. We don't really know what was going on. So we have interpretations. Evil is one of those interpretations. Sin is one of those interpretations. Malum, apple, one of those interpretations. The tree of knowledge of good and evil means the possibility of choice. We choose even that is not for our best good. Man is warned not to eat this fruit because of the destructive nature of having the knowledge of good and evil. Eve, as the woman, represents the masculine and feminine that exists inside all of us. Taken from the rib, the feminine nature existed within man, and just as Eve came from that rib, the masculine nature exists in her. And brought together, each of us have that feminine and masculine nature. Now the serpent The serpent is the life principle viewed from a material basis. When we get caught up in that material world, that's when the serpent is weaving its way into our life, trying to convince us that we can do it on our own. We don't need anything in the spiritual realm. The serpent's got it. The serpent is low on the earth. This is solidly down, in the soil. That's where we end up when we are choosing to not go to our highest place. So coming back to our overall topic, the results of the fruit of good and evil. We can be released from our fear of evil when we recognize that we have not fallen, we are not out of grace, we have not sinned, we've made a choice. We've made a choice for something that is not good. And if we've made a choice for something that's not good, it means that we are in control of making another choice. And when we look at the entire world situation, it's the collective consciousness that is choosing this direction rather than the good direction. And we are at control, we are at choice here to raise our own consciousness, especially as we're moving into an election. What do we want? As Bobby's prayer was so beautiful, let's look at what our choices are for good. And let our vote keep that choice for good in front of us. Let us pray. Divine Spirit, the Spirit for good, the choices for good. The divine essence that is inside me as that divine energy, leading and directing me along paths that I don't even know about today. Putting me in the path of choice, choosing to stay connected, choosing unity with the divine, choosing my human condition. I am not a machine. I am not an automaton. I am a human being living a human experience, and part of that human experience is being the hands and feet of God. Knowing that each and every step I take, I am at choice. Do I want this step to be my spiritual step, bringing me closer to Spirit, closer to the divine nature of who I am, closer to the Garden of Eden, the tree of life, the essence of what is real? Or do I want to choose other? Every single step is my choice. And I declare the truth for myself, for everyone in this room, for everyone in this world, that our choices are now moving deeper and deeper to the divine choice, the choice for good, the choice for the positive outcome, for hope for the future, for beauty in what we see, for light, life, love, all of which are synonyms for the divine. My heart is filled with gratitude for the choices that we all make that move us closer to our own divine essence. In gratitude, I let go, I let God, knowing that each and every word said in this prayer is already manifest in the mind of God. I invite all of you to help me anchor this by saying with me, and so it is.